How about now? I think we're good now.
How do you know?
Because I had it muted.
Oh, okay.
Let's see. Yeah! We're up.
Nice.
All right, let me turn this volume down. All right, so it's been a little while since we've done a live stream, obviously. Welcome back to a Live Better with JC and Britt. This is our first one of that, so you've never been here before. But
We've thought about it a lot, though.
we did. So welcome back. And yeah, so this is going to be more of a regular thing that we do on this channel. I think before we tried it on our Laud and Lungs channel, and we really want to devote that channel more towards our music. Which, announcements. A couple weeks ago, we released a new single, Fearless. You can look for that on Spotify and Apple Music and YouTube. It's called Fearless by Laud and Lungs. It's great. You should go listen to it. You should go stream it. You should go share it. Do all the things. And we really appreciate that. This is just going to be a hang. And that's kind of what we want to make these live streams into. We will have some things planned as far as maybe some questions to be answering. Eventually, we want to be answering your questions. We love doing the podcast. We love talking about different topics. But if we can't actually get into people's lives and help them where they're actually at, and I think the best way to do that is through live streams. I really do love this medium because I just think it actually connects us to you. So, yeah, we'll have a less bumpy start on the next live stream, and we'll make sure our audio works. But, yeah, so if you're joining us on YouTube, welcome. If you're joining us on Facebook, I threw that up at the last minute.
Oh, nice.
Maybe that works. I don't know. All this is new. It's easy to press record on a camera and just do your thing and then edit it later. Doing a live stream, you're like, there's so many parts. So we'll get it. But so right before we went live, Britt was like, yo, what should we talk about? And I was like, we're just hanging, chatting. I did have some stuff that I wanted to talk about, but then you had a better idea, as usual. And that was to just ask questions on, how we actually do the three things that we talk about on this channel, which is communication, relationships, and self-development. And we want to help you get better at all of those things. So any topic that you see from us, it might be geared towards something like, let's say, dating or marriage or parenting, but it's all in those three categories. Either how you communicate better in your parenting or in your marriage, or in dating, or how you have better relationships with the people that you're in all of those scenarios with, or how you develop yourself so you're a better person for all of the people that you're in relationship with that you communicate with. So that's what we do on this channel, and we're just going to stick to that. But I thought it would be fun to just go through some questions on how we actually do it. We are not perfect. We are learning these things with you, and I really like to shape the channel in that way where we're really communicating that these things that we're learning, it's not something that we've been in for 20 years. I'm 34. That would be weird. What's up? What?
Yeah, you can go get one, honey.
And we are at home right now live streaming, so if our kids interrupt us, it is what it is.
Yep.
So, did you find any questions that you thought would be good?
Yeah, I did.
All right. Ask away and let us respond.
So I figured I'll ask you and then I'll answer it too.
Okay.
So, what are your personal communication styles and how do they affect your relationships?
What do you mean by communication styles? I don't even know what that means. Like face to face or
I don't know. Whatever you make it out to mean. However you interpret that question.
These questions are very broad. Yeah, I think my preferred communication style is one that is free of a lot of the foreplay in communication. And what I mean by that, to clarify quickly, is where it just doesn't have all of the lead up to what we actually want to talk about.
Oh yeah,
One
you
of
are
the
like that.
one of the things that has bothered me in my relationship with Britt, and that we're working on, and she's getting better at. And when I say that, I'm not saying like she needs to get better and I don't. I'm saying because this is my communication style. When she communicates with me, if she wants it to be effective, she will stylize that communication in a way that's most effective for me. So that's how you do effective communication. I need to know how to approach communication with her, and it's going to be very different than how I receive communication best. So for me, if you can cut to the chase as quickly as possible and just get to either if you're trying to ask me a question or if you're trying to make an observation or a statement about something that we have going on, the quicker you can just get to the thing that you desire in that or the heart of the question you're asking without all of the lead up, without making sure my emotions are okay to receive
Yeah.
whatever it is that you're bringing to me, that's the way that I desire communication to be. Because I feel like if there's too much time between when you start and when you actually get to the thing that we're talking about,
Yeah.
my mind has done about like 12 different scenario blasts. And so now I am all over the place in terms of like, what is this going to mean for our relationship? What is this going to, like, I played it out too much.
Yeah.
So the more that you can just get direct and right to whatever you're desiring to communicate, the easier it'll be for me to just give you an honest and just give you a real response.
Yeah. I think that's because that's how you communicate too. Like you receive that better because you communicate that way. You're very
Right.
direct.
In that way, yeah.
And I think that's one of the cool things about communications in relationships is that I think it helps us both get better. Like I have work that I have to do and I wouldn't have known it if I didn't have a close relationship with you.
Right.
And the same
Right.
with you. You have areas where you can improve the way you communicate but you don't find that out unless you're in a relationship. For me, what are my personal communication styles? I think for me, it's just trying to be honest with myself so that I can communicate clearly. And then also I need extra time to process things. So if it ever needs to be something like a difficult conversation, I need a lot of time to process things and then I can communicate it effectively. If I don't have time, I probably shouldn't try that conversation because it's going to be too muddled by like how I feel or what I think and I won't even know the true like what am I trying to do in this conversation. And so
I think I've lied to myself in the past in what you're saying where I feel like I need to be as quick as possible to communicate so that and I would excuse it as if I go away and think about it, that's going to be harmful to me because I think too much. Like I can overthink things. And I'm like, if I just get this out now, then I don't have to go through that whole process of processing my thoughts.
Yeah, which is not fun sometimes.
It's not fun, but it's necessary. Even if you're an overthinker, it's necessary to go. And that's where helpful tools like, hey, go through these lists of questions. Like we've talked about the ladder of integrity before, and it's something you could just look up on the internet, just say, climb the ladder of integrity. There's a PDF for that. And it basically is a list of questions from the bottom to the top, like a ladder, that you go through to figure out how you feel about a specific conversation, a specific scenario in your life. And it's just a nice tool where you don't have to sit in your brain and come up with answers and sit in your brain and navigate a scenario. You can have questions that guide you through that scenario and actually help you come to better solutions, help you come to better understandings for yourself and for that other person of how you want to respond, of how you want to communicate back to that person. So I agree with you. It's best to not do it in the moment. And for the overthinkers that are like, yeah, but I want to get it out of the way, I don't want to think about this later, that's not a good strategy. And I've had to learn that because, I don't know, I think you get into these things too where it's like, if you're a strong person, you'll just say the truth, and if it hurts, that's not your problem.
Yeah.
So stupid.
There is a way to say the truth that will still maybe cause pain, but you did it as kindly as possible.
There's a difference between standing, like if someone was being bullied.
Yeah, yeah.
Or and bullied, I'm not talking about like in a, middle school context. I mean like at your workplace. Someone is they're being subjected to just some sort of attack that is uncalled for within the environment that you're in.
Mm-hmm.
And you can stand up for that person and speak your mind in those types of scenarios. I'm not saying like, let me go away and think about this.
Yeah. That needs immediate action.
No, there are times where immediate action is needed, but even in those, did you take a second to think, is this the right time? Because even in those times, you're like, I don't even have a second to act. It's like,
it might be more effective to take that, whoever is doing the attacking, maybe
right, because
separately.
Like we know from my kids, there are many times where I walk into a scenario and I don't have the full picture.
Mm-hmm.
And if I stopped, surveyed the area, and saw the younger son sticking out his tongue to the older son, I'd be like, oh, that's why you're angry.
Yeah.
And so you do need to take that second to actually assess what's going on and respond correctly.
As you were talking about the ladder of integrity, I have found that to be super, super helpful when using it, but also when not using it, because it helps you get good practice in thinking your thoughts. Yeah. And so I used to more often, I probably still do this, but beat around the bush to get to the point. But but I think it's because I was feeling like I'm feeling like I'm feeling the waters. Like, is this going to be an okay thing? Like, how far can I go?
I'm getting sweaty right now.
Just thinking about
it, because that's the part I hate.
I know that's
because because for me, and this is why every person's communication is different and correct to them, and that's why in relationships we need to figure out each other's communication. There's definitely parts that we both can grow in, and some ways in which we desire to be communicated to might be wrong. That's true too, but we can't assume that at first.
Yeah.
We need to communicate in their style first so that we can have a better relationship with them, and that's the goal. And you knowing that beating around the bush bothers me is one thing, but then getting deeper to why it bothers me, I automatically default to, and I don't know why this is, but I automatically default to, like, you don't trust me enough to respond in a controlled way. Like, you don't trust me enough to respond in a loving way that's not just trying to put you down for saying something that, I don't know, I might find stupid or I might find wrong.
Yeah.
You don't have to do that in my mind.
Right.
And I don't know what is causing you to feel like you need to do it when communicating.
Well,
but
I think the interesting thing, so this is why it's, once again, relationships are pretty awesome, in that
agreed.
That way of communicating probably isn't healthy in general. Like, I should be able to know what I think and how I feel and what I want to communicate, and be able to communicate that in the most respectful way, but also in the most direct way, in the most timely way.
Right.
And so I've gotten better at that, but it still takes, I just have to process things so that I know what I want to communicate and how the best way is to communicate it. So.
Right.
Okay. Anything else?
No.
Okay. How do you identify and communicate your boundaries effectively?
Yeah. I would say in our relationship, most of the time, I don't know. I mean, at this point, I don't think there's a lot of unknown boundaries in the relationship. I mean, we've been together for a good amount of time now that I think all of those are kind of out in the open. So I think the only way that I would communicate it now is first when I discover one that I didn't know I had. And that's a perfectly reasonable way to find a boundary, is to stumble upon it. And then when you find it, you need to, and we've talked about this in our podcast on it, you need to communicate it in a way where the person knows that, one, I didn't know I had this boundary, so I don't have any expectation on you to know that you crossed that boundary.
Yeah.
Like, it's not your fault. You didn't even know it existed. So now I want to communicate this to you so that you know that this is a landmine for me. Please don't step on it.
Yeah.
You know? And you have to do that in love. And if it requires you to get away because maybe you're just triggered, maybe you're just angry, maybe you're just emotional about the fact that it was a boundary that got stepped on and they should have known.
Yeah,
That's ridiculous. People don't know our boundaries. That's why they belong to us. So I would say right now in our marriage, it's just if I happen to stumble on one, I'll communicate that to you. I would say, though, just to give people grace, if I do stumble upon one, it's still a struggle to communicate it, though. Like, even at this stage in our marriage, there's still, like, I don't know, because I don't know if that's because of, like, we've been married for so long and we should have it all figured out, so I don't want to, like, throw a wrench in that. Or I don't know what the reasonings are behind it.
I mean, I think that it's only been for, I don't know, the past 2 years that we've actually been proactively getting better at that.
Right. Or made aware that boundaries even exist.
Yeah.
You know, you kind of learn what to do and not to do just through the course of being with someone.
Right. But it doesn't mean you worked through it.
Right.
I feel like now
That's a good point.
we do the work to work through it. Whereas before we're like, oh, that's a no touchy point.
Right.
Instead of doing the hard work of figuring out, okay, why did this upset me and how do I respectfully communicate this to my spouse?
Yeah.
So, for me, it's really just the same thing. I think once I feel it, once I realize it's been crossed or whatever the situation is that upset me, I have to take time again to think about it, figure out why I'm upset even, because sometimes I don't know why.
Right.
And then once I can figure that out, then I can come to you about it and then we can talk about it. But so yeah, that's how I do it. What strategies do you use to resolve conflicts without escalating tension?
Resolve conflicts without escalating tension. I think
I know this one.
How I do it?
No, I know it
Or
for
how
me.
for you? Oh, okay. Yeah, I would say the best way to not escalate tensions is to make sure that you're not tense going into that conflict.
Yeah, that would
And you
probably
need to
help.
kind of do whatever is necessary to de-stress yourself in anticipation of the conflict that you're going to have. Whatever that's prayer or meditation or working out or whatever it is. You need to have that figured out before. Doing work beforehand, like the ladder of integrity, feeling how you feel about something, and writing that out so that you're clear about your emotions going into a conflict is really important. Making sure that, and it's very dependent on your relationship with the person you're in conflict with, but another thing would be making sure that you're going into it with a desire to preserve that relationship. Yeah. With a desire to it doesn't need to be maintained in its current capacity, because conflict is a tool for growth in relationships. It's not bad. It's actually very good for the relationship.
Right.
Your goal should be growth from the conflict, but still a lot of people enter the conflict, and this is where it turns to fighting. They go into it with a us versus them mentality.
Like a defensive, or I have to win.
Right.
Yeah.
If you have that with your wife, if you have that with your girlfriend, if you have that, with your coworker that you're going into a conflict with, you're not ready for the conflict, because that's not the goal.
That's
you're not in conflict then. I think like that's when it was explained.
You're in a fight then?
You're in a fight.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's a major difference between fighting and conflict. And so I would just say, if the person's still an enemy or an adversary or however you want to, paint that person, if there is something in which it's averse,
Yeah.
mentality going into it, you're not ready.
That's
And
a good way to put it.
you need to do a little more work to prepare for that conflict. Because we don't want to be cold people. We don't, and I would say, just to bring it back to us, I guess we should, keep it on us. I'm speaking very generally, but that's how I have to be with you. You're not my enemy.
Yeah.
And I think that's the beauty of marriage, is that you have to wake up with that person the next morning.
Yeah.
So you might as well get your act together and, do whatever work is necessary to get your mind right, to know that this person is someone that you want to have a healthy relationship with, because why would you not? Why would you want to live in misery with a person?
Yeah.
It's silly. But a lot of people do. A lot of people do, just so that I can win, just so that I can be right, just so I can be justified, and whatever the conflict is concerning, I'm going to keep that person as my enemy and just live in this hell.
Yeah.
And it's not worth it. It's definitely not worth it to me. So I try to get over that as quickly as possible. And I've talked about in the past too how that time has gone down.
Oh yeah.
In terms of how long I'll stay mad at you, or how long I'll stay, frustrated with something that you've done or did or whatever it is. Done or did. Same thing. Doing, I should say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that time is reduced. Like there was periods earlier on in our marriage where like I could go like a month with just being cold and just distant from you. And yeah, it's amazing how many things in your mind you can create to justify that.
Yeah.
Like you can create so many things in your mind to be like, this is right.
Because it does feel good in a weird way, a twisted way, because you're just like, right, I'm right. Yeah, I would say for me, I think you defined it really well. If I am open to, because let's go back to the question, what strategies do you use to resolve conflicts without escalating tension? If I am not in if I'm not super upset, like if I'm not super emotional or super mad, and I'm still present, and I want us to resolve the issue, I can address it right away.
Right.
But if I'm really hurt, really angry, really have a lot of emotions, and I'm like, it's a versus, I'm like, okay, pause. Like my strategy is, I love you and we'll talk about it later.
Yeah. No, for real. I did that with someone the other day. I was in a conflict with them, and it was turning into a fight.
Yeah.
And what I noticed, and this is where honesty with yourself, most problems come back to you. And I noticed myself in this conflict the other day starting to make jabs at the other person and starting to bring things to kind of like cut at them.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, shoot, we're not having a conversation anymore.
Yeah.
We're not even engaged in healthy conflict.
Yeah.
We're fighting now.
Yeah.
And I said to the person, I was like, can we just stop and either have this conversation at another time or start over, because this isn't going to be productive at all.
Yeah.
Like we're just, because then they're firing back at me insults, and I want to top them with the insult.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't productive. So I literally just said out loud, this isn't going anywhere. Can we start over? That's okay in a fight.
Yeah.
To just, hey, not good.
Right. This fight is not going to lead anywhere positive.
No. So, yeah.
That's good.
What's next?
This might not be so personal, so we can skip it. I'll just read it out loud. How can vulnerability enhance connection in relationships, and what are some ways to practice it? So maybe, how has vulnerability enhanced our relationship?
Right.
And how do we do that?
Vulnerability enables you to have a safer connection in the relationship. So like the more vulnerable I can be about how the way you speak or communicate to me makes me feel, like, hey, when you beat around the bush on something to test my emotions on it, I feel like you don't trust me. Like, I don't have to say that to you.
Right.
But that's vulnerable and hopefully leads to you understanding more about how to communicate to me in a way that feels like you trust me,
Yeah.
so that I feel safer in the relationship.
Right.
And that leads to more connection in the
Right,
relationship.
right.
Deeper connection comes out of safety.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I never really thought of it that way. I guess when I think of vulnerability, I think of the reason why, like, I would say you can't have a meaningful relationship without having certain levels of vulnerability.
Right.
Because I think the essence of a relationship is to be known.
Right.
And you can't be known without being vulnerable.
Sure.
And so.
And
yeah,
that's
so
basically what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You know, just putting yourself out there to, you know, because you could respond and be like, well, I kind of don't trust you.
Right, right.
That's the vulnerability of the statement.
Yeah.
Not that I did something, like that I put something out there. The vulnerability comes from the fact that you
I could hurt you there.
hurt me there.
Yeah.
And so vulnerability is putting yourself out there with full knowledge that the person could hurt you, but you're hoping and praying and trusting that they will respond with a way that will eventually make you feel safer in the relationship.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would say in our relationship, I'm trying to think of some other ways in which, you know, we've kind of used this tool. I mean,
I think it's been like it's just kind of a slow thing. You slowly build trust, right? So I feel like we're going to be married almost 12 years, right? And we've slowly shown each other, okay, we can be trustworthy.
Yeah.
And when we've broken trust, we've worked through that, and we've owned up to it. And I think that's just, what is it? How does that enhance your connection? We're much closer now because of that. So I think it's just a matter of the deeper you get in your vulnerability, the more you're known by that person and you prove yourself to be a safe person, the closer you're going to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, yeah. I mean, what ways do we practice it? I think we're pretty good at showing each other that we are safe people.
Yeah.
And I think we're pretty good at also, like I said,
check-ins too. I would say like that's a way we practice it.
That's
is
true.
If there's something that just kind of feels off, either like we're having a bad day or woke up on the wrong side of the bed type thing, and you just kind of check in with the other person and you're just like, we good?
Yeah, we literally did that recently.
Yeah. And that's a way of just saying, you know, again, you're putting yourself out there. Like I could respond with like, no, I hate you. You know, like, I don't know. That would be crazy, and you should look into that deeper.
I'm glad you've never done that.
Yeah. If I respond with that, you're like, something's
horribly
very
wrong.
amiss. Yeah, or someone stole his phone or something. Yeah. But yeah, I think like check-ins are really helpful. Not avoiding the moments where vulnerability could be introduced. Like where like you're in the relationship and there's a moment where you see you could be vulnerable there.
Yeah.
And you choose to just walk away. Like that's going to actually lead to, because when you do that, and I think this is really important, if you leave vulnerability unattended to in moments where it should be attended to in a relationship, that leaves your mind the ability to fill in the gaps of the knowledge that you didn't gain from that moment. Like if you just walk away instead of attending to the vulnerability that you could have demonstrated and then received greater safety from the person's response.
Yeah.
Now you get to just fill it in. And if you have times in your life where you have had people that were untrustworthy, if you had relationships that were unhealthy or toxic, you're going to fill in not with the person that you're currently in a relationship with, like they're hopefully
positive
positive
input.
response that makes you feel safer and known in the relationship, you're going to fill it in with those toxic
Yeah.
OODA loops, where those mindsets that just won't go away. You're going to fill those in, and you're going to feel less safe in the relationship, and it's not the other person's fault. It's actually your fault for not putting yourself out there and being vulnerable.
Yeah.
And the only way to inspire vulnerability in the other person, like you're like, well, they're never vulnerable with me. The only way to inspire vulnerability is for you first to be vulnerable and call it out of them.
Yeah. Especially if you're in like relatively healthy marriage relationship, that's the place to
Even if
practice it.
Even if you're in an unhealthy marriage relationship, it might not be an immediate thing, but your ability to be vulnerable about how you're feeling with the unhealth or toxicity in the relationship has the possibility, and that's basically all you have in the relationship, is the possibility of pulling and calling out vulnerability in that other person.
That's true. Yeah.
If you avoid it, if you walk away, or you're just like, well, this relationship is unhealthy, it's toxic, so I'm not even going to try anymore.
Yeah.
Well, it's not going to get better.
Yeah.
You're just leaving it to rot.
Yeah.
You're just leaving it to exist in its current stance, its current circumstance, its current, the way that it's structured now.
Yeah.
You might as well take a chance. Put yourself out there.
Right.
The person's already hurting you if it's a toxic relationship.
Yeah.
What's a little more hurt? At least you were honest. At least you can go back to the bedroom and be like, well, I tried.
Yeah.
Well, I tried. And that's better than nothing.
That's a hard situation in general. I feel like there's so much we could talk about concerning that.
Sure.
Okay. Anything else to add for that one? Any
No,
other
I don't
ways
think
we
so.
practice it?
Not that I can think of. Check in.
Yeah.
Just check in regularly. Especially when you feel like a person is in a mood or distant or check in.
What self-improvement habits have you found most beneficial for your relationships or just life?
Self-improvement for relationships.
Oh, well, I guess that does make sense, that question.
Yeah.
What self-improvement habits have you found most beneficial for your relationships?
I would say honesty about the ways in which you're lacking currently in your ability to communicate, in your ability to relate, in your ability to just be with that person, be present with that person. I think as soon as we get honest with that, we're able to actually target that area and develop towards a better, understanding or a better ability, like listening or, being present, where you're actually in the room with that person. You're not thinking about something else. You're not, you're not listening to a podcast or playing a video game or watching TV. Like, you're able to say, this relationship is the most important thing right now. I'm going to be here.
Yeah.
And so I would say for me, it's just the more I'm able to reflect on myself and where I'm lacking has been the greatest tool to eventually unlock new ways that I can relate to you.
Yeah. That's good. Your answer is good. I would say for me, it's a couple of things. The first thing that came to my mind was the ladder of integrity. That's been really helpful for just communicating in relationships.
We should put this in the description later on, because
the ladder of integrity.
We talk about it so much.
We do.
It is the thing. I don't know if anybody struggles with anxiety. I kind of know you do, or any other just really oppressive emotion. But recently I've had some nights where I'll wake up at 3:30 in the morning and I just can't go back to sleep. And one of those times I just went downstairs, pulled up my phone, and just went through the ladder of integrity in my notes app.
Yeah.
And it was helpful.
Yeah.
I didn't go back to sleep, but
you felt better.
But I felt better. So yeah, it's like a real example of how I used that recently, and it was effective in moving me towards a place that was away from the anxiety that I was experiencing.
Yeah.
I didn't say it cured the anxiety, but I was at least moving in the right direction afterwards. But I'm sorry. Go
No,
ahead.
that's good. So I would say that was the first one that came to my mind. And then you mentioned honesty, which is something I've been practicing as, I guess one of the habits with honesty is just, I've been trying to practice slowing down so that as soon as something comes up in my heart or mind that is not like, that I don't feel at peace,
Right.
I will take the time then, or I'll decide right then in my mind when I'm going to take the time to figure out why I don't feel good about it.
Right.
That way my relationships are unclouded by just like unknown feelings or thoughts. And but then honesty comes along with that. So practicing being just honest with what I think, what I feel, what I want, what happened, so that there's just clarity. I feel like I lived a long time without like just being too afraid of certain things and not being totally honest with myself.
Yeah.
And so I would say those are the main things that come to mind that have been very helpful. Oh, I guess another one, being honest and actually, not that I wasn't honest before, but being more intentional about saying what I think and want.
Yeah.
In my relationships as well. Instead of just going along like, oh, this will make that person feel better, which I didn't clarify, and maybe it doesn't. I don't actually know. I'm just assuming.
Right.
But being very specific and intentional to know what is it that they actually want and what is it they think and what is it that I want and think, so that I'm not just going along with the flow because I think it will make people happy. So that's been the strategies that have been helpful to me.
No, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Again, I got honest with my faults. You just getting honest in your communication. It's very helpful.
Yeah.
And it'll improve you as a person, because you're living more and more in truth.
Yeah.
And you'll actually grow as an authentic person by doing that.
Yeah.
So, and that translates in your relationships, like your marriage relationship, outward. You know, because it'll just get easier then to be honest with your friends. It'll get easier to be honest with the, clerk at the grocery store.
Yeah.
You know, like all the different relationship dynamics that you could come into contact with, you'll be much improved and will navigate through them more authentically.
I would say that, tell me what you think about this, but for me, I've improved starting here, like between us.
And I think that's where it should.
Yeah.
Like, I actually think that marriage has the potential. It's very difficult, but it has the potential to be a drawing board for future growth.
And if you can do it in your marriage well, it's so encouraging too, because it's like a safe place, hopefully, that it happens in, and you're like, okay, like I can do this.
Yeah.
Like, I'm getting better at this. And it gives you courage, like you're saying, to bring it out.
Or you can be like, did I do that well?
Yeah, yeah.
No, you could do it better, you know.
Let me give you some advice.
And at least it's in a safe place where we're not in public and you're embarrassing yourself.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, if you do that in public, people will laugh at you. You know.
That's funny.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll go as long as my phone holds up, because it's
How much charge do you have?
I'm on low battery.
Oh, you're almost out of here.
I'm on low battery mode here.
Okay.
What are some common red flags you've encountered in relationships? I have one.
Okay, go.
It's not with you, but I have noticed in some relationships that people are very like, they want to be your friend, but it's more because they want you to just be there for them. And so they like want to tell you all their problems and like tell you, like, basically vent, or to use your term, drama dump. And and you care for them, but then you realize that when you share about your life that they're kind of not that interested.
Yeah.
And then you're just kind of like,
Yeah.
this is maybe a waste of my time.
Yeah.
And so I would
And that's
say
a really healthy response to that. Not that you can't be friends with that person still, but it allows you to
that's when you know that where you have to draw some boundaries.
exactly.
Like
Now I have a
will
boundary that I'm not going to tell you about my life.
right.
Because you don't care.
Yes. And
You don't
also like
care.
how much time am I going to invest in this relationship?
Right.
There's going to be a boundary there. Like I will care for you. There are certain things that I will help you with.
Sure.
Certain amount of time I will hear you out, but then that's it.
Yeah, people draw the lines for you in relationships. It's our job to discover those lines that were drawn by the other person in the relationship and place the boundary there. Like people
Or redraw them.
yeah. Well, what I'm saying is people by their actions are drawing where the boundary in the relationship
Oh, I see.
is.
What you're saying, yeah.
You know, like
But they're doing it unknowingly.
Sure. And I guess to go back to things we talked about earlier, you have to think about it first before you draw a boundary and decide, is the relationship worth me confronting this person
I was just
about
thinking
this
Yeah.
thing?
Like
you
if
know?
it was you, I would confront it.
Yeah, like why every time I try to share something about my life, you check out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something hopefully this relationship is worth you confronting me about that.
Yeah.
And having whatever conflict ensues because of that, because the relationship's worth it.
Yeah.
You know, not that the other relationships aren't worth it, but they're necessary for boundaries to be drawn in those, you know, and you've made that decision consciously with thought, you know, with actual investigation of where we're at in this relationship.
Yeah.
How
about
what was
you?
the question about?
Let's see here. My phone keeps turning off because it's on low power mode.
Okay.
What are some common red flags you've encountered in relationships?
Right. I would say red flags in relationships would be
That you've encountered.
yeah. That was a good one that you brought up, because I've had relationships like that where people are just not that interested in what you have to say or your life or your opinions or just how your day was.
Yeah.
And that's frustrating. Another red flag that I've seen, it's tough not to just go to dating,
Yeah.
you know,
Well,
that's
you can go back to dating.
that's where a lot of red flags exist. I would say a red flag is a lack of personal growth in the person that you're dating. Where, and I would say as a caveat to that, where personal growth stops after you enter the relationship, where they just kind of like, I'm in a relationship, so now I don't have to grow. The relationship was, all the growth that I did prior to was for this potential relationship, and now I don't have to.
Yeah, that's definitely a red flag.
Grow.
Because then you're almost afraid, if I address this, are they going to put on a show just to keep me because they worked so hard to get me? I don't know. Yeah.
I don't know.
You have more dating experience than me. So.
That's true. Noob.
I had high standards.
That's good.
You're the only one who met them.
I didn't, apparently.
I guess not. Should have had
You
high
win.
standards.
You win. Yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
I don't know. I can't think of any. I mean, there's plenty of red flags in relationships that I can think of, but how I relate it to me personally, I think like what you said is really helpful. You know, are you drawing boundaries in your current relationships? Because a lot of people just let every different person dictate what that relationship is going to be when you're in control of what that relationship is going to be.
And can I stop you there? Because for the longest time, I I don't know why you don't think about this unless somebody tells you that you have the power to make boundaries in relationships. I grew up, and it's not because like my parents did a great job raising me, but for some reason I just kind of was like I just let other people dictate everything.
Right.
But you have the power to, yeah, make boundaries and say this relationship is worth pursuing. This one is not. This is the one I want to pursue. You know, you have that power. And I guess I never really thought about that when I was younger.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I don't know what we were talking about. I interrupted
Red
you.
flags.
Red flags.
Yeah, boundaries and red flags and relationships. And I think your answer was good.
Okay, cool. How has social media influenced your relationships positively or negatively? It's all you, babe.
Yeah, I was about to say, you don't use social media.
No.
At all. So, I mean, it really hasn't affected you. I don't know how it's affected me, other than being a distraction to the relationship. I would say, like, if I was to pinpoint one area in which it's affected our relationship, it would be the fact that sometimes I desire the distraction more than the relationship.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of factors in that. It's not due to lack of love in the relationship. It's just due to time and place. It's due to how I'm feeling that day.
Yeah.
How work was. You know, there's a lot of variables to why that could be a thing. But if I was to say how is social media, and I include YouTube in that.
Okay. I don't really include that, but I get that is actually considered social media.
Yeah, it's considered a social media. It's the same thing nowadays, especially with shorts.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. You know,
it's not as, I don't know. Sometimes it doesn't feel as local. You know, like Facebook and Instagram, you feel like you, I don't know, have friends that you know, maybe see more often, whereas YouTube is so wide.
Right. Sure, I'm not connecting with my friends on YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But, you know, I have found that I love YouTube for the fact that you're connecting with so many different people outside of your purview of friends.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they're outside of your purview of friends. You're never going to meet these people. You're never going to be in a relationship. You're never going to have connection with these people. So the waste of time is pretty great.
Yeah.
It's pretty great. Like, if I was to weigh like the waste of time and the information I'm obtaining, the waste of time might, you know.
I mean, it depends. Like, it depends on how much you're interacting. Maybe it's a waste of time if you're interacting a lot. But if you're like learning and you would have to go find some other place to learn, then that's not a waste of time.
Could I learn better in relationship? Probably. Like, could I actually I think this is the power of being with friends, like being in relationship with people, us and friendships, you know, outside of our relationship. I learned so much from just the conversations and interactions with my friends.
That's true.
Because it's deeper, it's spoken word to you, which is easier to retain. You know, there's just so much more to it.
Yeah.
And I'm obtaining things that they also, in their moments of distraction, you know, watching YouTube or podcast or something like that, have learned and now are disseminating to you. And it's received in such a more positive way where there can be some back and forth on that. Like, well, what do you think about that? Do you think that's true? Or do you think, you know, all of that type of stuff. I think social media is just a giant distraction. Effective distraction.
Yeah.
But I think when I'm in proximity to people that I could be in relationship to, I would desire, don't always do this, but I would desire to choose relationship.
Right. Instead, I see what you're saying.
If that makes sense.
When you're with people, you rather be with them and not on social media.
Yeah. Like, there's been many times that I've deleted social media when I see that I'm looking at that instead of my kids. And I'm just like, it's too much.
Yeah.
It's too much.
It's true. It is a good distraction. Right. What does trust mean to you, and how do you build or rebuild it in relationships? Oh, we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
but I guess maybe we haven't
For
talked
our
about it
relationship,
super
yeah.
personally. Yeah.
Yeah.
What does trust mean to you? And how do you build or rebuild it in relationships? I mean, I can go first this time. This is probably true for most people, but for me, trust is kind of hard, right? So I don't give my deepest trust out to many people. But to you and a few others, what it means to me is that I can trust you with almost everything. Like whatever I share with you, expect, I guess, I expect it to be received without like belittling me, and received in a way that like you're going to respond in a way that is kind.
Right.
Even if
Right.
I'm asking for your thoughts and I know that it might not be what I want to hear, I know you're going to do it in a way that is kind and loving and not to hurt me, but for my best. And so I guess that's what trust means to me. And so, yeah. So there's not very many people who I have a deep level of trust with. There's like layers. But yeah, so that's what it would mean to me.
How do you build it?
How do I build it?
Or rebuild it?
Oh, how do I rebuild it? I guess it would be whatever it was that broke that trust, because if we're rebuilding, something happened. Going to that person and making them aware, also in a respectful way, that the trust was broken and like finding out why. Like what happened there. I need to know what happened
Right.
to know if I can trust you like that again.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe you won't trust that person right away again, but you want to because you understand what happened or you understand whatever viewpoint that they gave, but then you can start giving them your trust in little bits at a time once again to see are they going to be trustworthy, and
how have we regained trust in our relationship? Like what ways can you think of?
I think with us it's just small ways, and I think we have actually gotten a lot better. I mean, I think hopefully I've gotten better, but I know you've gotten better at just the way you respond in little ways. I feel like I'm able to trust you more and more because I'm like, okay, like I've seen enough times you respond in a kind way that I know that this next thing that I share with you, you're going to respond in a way that is kind. And so I think it's just like this slow giving out of vulnerability.
Right.
Where you give a little bit and you're like, okay, that was received well. I feel like there's a better word for that, but that was received well. And you just keep on doing that. And that just builds upon itself until you can share more and more and more quickly and be confident. Like I can be confident that you are going to care for me well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say something similar. I would say, the vulnerability that had to be there from the person. Let's say if trust was broken to me, like I wasn't the one breaking the trust, I would put out the vulnerability that I felt like trust was broken, and then your response to it of acceptance and ownership of that situation.
That's key.
That's how you rebuild trust. Like the person has to be able to say that trust was broken, because that sometimes isn't allowed. Anything's allowed in a relationship, or should be, but sometimes people just don't feel like they're allowed to say you broke my trust in this situation, because they feel like there'll be a nag, or they feel like they'll like, what do you mean you don't trust me? Like that, like almost like that just comes with marriage. It's trust. It's like, no, we're humans. Trust is something that's earned. Trust is something that is earned through when I put myself out there in vulnerability, you're going to take ownership. If you can see how you were wrong or how you broke that trust.
You're right. Their response is like really important.
Their response is what is going to rebuild that trust. So I think that's the way that I've seen it, very similar to what you said.
Yeah.
And it's in the small ways afterwards because there are the big conflicts where we put ourselves out there and where we're like, here's it all. Let's put it all out there and we see how that person responds. And that's a good start to that rebuilding of trust.
Yeah.
But the small ways, like you said, and the ways in which we're maybe not fully, like, in a transparent way, putting ourselves out there once again to see how the response is.
Yeah.
But it's weaved in there.
Yeah.
That happens for a while when you're trying to rebuild trust after it's been broken.
Yeah.
For sure.
That's good. All right. I'm surprised that my phone is still alive.
No.
What time?
It's holding on, man.
Yeah, I don't even know what time it is.
We can end soon.
Okay, let's just do one more question then. How do you identify and express your love language, and how does it impact your connections?
I hate this one.
Why do you hate it?
I just don't really know what my love language is. Like, I've read the book. I've read Gary Chapman's The 5 Love Languages.
Words of affirmation. That's one of them.
It definitely is one of them. But, like,
it's not everything, but
yeah, I agree with someone said, like, oh, well, they change, like, all the time. I think, like, that could be manipulative. Like, you should know your love languages to a certain extent and not, like, change them when feel like you're just not being met in a certain way in the relationship. They're not being met in a certain way. But
you can have, like, multiple. Like,
right. And some are more important than others.
Right.
That's fine, but it can't be like a day-to-day thing. Now it's
didn't get me a gift today.
Right. Now it's gifts of service. Go out to the store. Yeah. So words of affirmation is definitely what's the question again?
Okay, it is how do you identify and express your love language, and how does it impact your connections?
So how do you identify it?
I don't know.
Usually you identify it by the way that you desire to give love the most.
Right.
Like, usually the way that's what's interesting, and why I say I struggle with this is because I'm not good at words of affirmation.
Oh, that's interesting.
Like, I'm not out here just I'll say, like, good job.
Yeah.
But I'm not, like, super mushy about it and being like, the way you did that thing, or the way that this happened, or the way that you said that, or how
you're gonna make me uncomfortable.
Yeah, or how you look tonight, or, like, I'm not gonna say anything.
Yeah.
So it's odd that
you'll be like, you look nice. You say that sometimes.
But it's so I feel like it's so basic that it's like,
I don't know if that counts as words of affirmation.
Right.
It is affirming.
It's affirming, I guess.
It's direct.
Right. I guess I'm just doing it in my direct way. Good job.
You look nice.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. That one, acts of service, is one.
You do that for me a lot.
Yeah, I would say that's probably more my primary one, and the one that I feel the most when it's done for me. And you do that regularly. I mean, coming home and, like, I don't have to ask, like, will I eat tonight? Like, there's food.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Okay. I'm human, all right?
Yeah. Unless Brittany's tired. Then you need to fend for yourself.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. What about for you?
I mean, I feel like I'm complicated too, in that I know that gifts are not my love language, even though I think everyone likes gifts, but I won't feel loved if I don't get them. Like, did I say that right? I won't feel unloved.
There you go. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I won't feel unloved if I don't get them.
Yeah. I was like, I need to go to the store
No,
now.
no. I like saving money too, so that's helpful. So yeah, I think my primary. Oh, what are my primaries? I don't know. I know, like physical touch, words of affirmation, service, time. What's that one? Quality time.
Quality time. Yeah.
So all of those. I guess words of affirmation being on the lower scale.
Okay.
So yeah.
Quality
physical
time.
Quality time, and service.
Right. Physical touch.
Did
quality,
I just say physical?
Physical time. Physical time.
It's time for bed.
Yeah.
It's those three. I'm not gonna try to repeat them again.
Brittany need to go bed.
This is normal in our household, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Cool.
We did it.
You know, it's actually good to hear your love languages again because I
forgot them.
No, I think like you just get to I feel like they're a really good thing to investigate. And how do you investigate these? How do you investigate to find your love language? That has to be a personal thing.
Yeah.
It's helpful to read the book.
Yeah,
The
that was
Five Love
helpful.
Languages, so that you can actually identify in yourself, like what markers to look for to identify your love language, and then you can communicate it to your spouse or partner or girlfriend or boyfriend. And but it's good to hear again, so that I don't know. I feel like we're already integrated a lot of those things into our relationship, so that we're meeting those love languages. So I don't really think of them on a daily basis, but it's good to hear again.
Yeah, you're
good to hear again.
You're good at meeting them, so.
All right, guys. Well, we will be back on another live stream at another time. So we will see you next time at that other time. I'm just speaking so I can try and find the finish this live stream button. Goodbye.